Hello guys, in this video we will look at creating our own event cheat sheet so you can log all the events being used in Magento. They are configured in the events XML files and you can log them into one log file with txt file, and then you look through them and you can figure out what events you can use. So at the end of this video we will look at creating a command, which is pretty much this one, php fpn magento then training events log, and this will run, and once it's run it will log all the events in the file inside var log events txt, and then you can see them from this one, like theme delete after. This is the first log, and then you can go all the way down, so 223 events being logged in. And you can also specify the area, so you don't have to log everything. For example, if you want to log only the admin HTML, you can log it, and then you can see there will be only 45 events. And likewise, you can have only the front end event, and then you can see there's a lot more than the admin HTML, but you will have 64. And also we have around 6 areas, like a global, which is run by default without specifying. This will run the global or run everything in fact. And then you can have a global, you can have front end, admin HTML, web API REST, web API SOAP, and GraphQL. So if we go with the GraphQL events and then log them, you will see you only have 6. So let's go ahead and write this application, this module, and see how we can achieve that. So we have our module. This is the event cheat sheet, and it only has the module XML file and registration file. So first of all, we will create the console command. So I will create it like so. The class will be log command, and it will extend the command from Symfony, and this will have the configure, and we will have a set name as training events log, then this set description log observer events. So let's go ahead with this one for now, and now we will override the execute method, and in the execute method we just say output write line events log. So just write and making sure the command is working. So we will have here the di XML file, and then to di command list interface. This will be arguments. The arguments will be commands. This of course will be an array, and the items inside the event log, that will be object, and then we just copy the class here and paste it in here. Remove the trailing, the prefix slash. Now if we just flush cache, php fn magento cache flush config, and then we run this command. Now php magento, so yeah, it's working. Now let's go ahead and do these things. First of all, we need a constructor, and then we will have null here because the name is already specified, and then we will use the config reader from the event. So Magento framework event config reader, and then we will say config reader, and I will just replace it and then initialize the properties. And in here what we need to do, we get the data from the config reader, and then we'll read, say for example front end. This is the area we want to read from, and then we will say output write line array keys date. Now if we run the application, okay, so rmrf generated code training, if we run it, now we will get all these events for the front end. Now if we add, say for example web API REST, then we log them, you can see we only have those from the web API REST. These are the used events in Magento. There are some events are not logged or not shown because they are not used. Say for example the customer save after, or say customer save before, they're not logged because they're not used by Magento by default, unless someone is using it, and then it will be shown. If no one is using them, then they will not show. So these, bear in mind, these are only the used events and doesn't cover everything. Now to to log them into a file, what we need to do here is we need to have a file from magento-lib or magento file system, and then we call it file adapter, and we just initialize it, and then we just import this. And to do this, we will just say, instead of write them into outline, into the output in the command line, we just say this file adapter, this file adapter write. Now we specify the file var log events.txt, and then we will use these array keys. Just delete these. Then we use these array keys, and these are array, and the file adapter doesn't write an array, so we need to implode them and we need to make them line by line. To do this, we will have to use the implode, and then we break these array by PHP end of line, which is new line. And so we will implode the array, so we make it as text, but it will be line by line, so key after a key, so each key will be a new line, and this will write all these data inside this file. So if we just run the command, first of all we need to remove generated code and then run the command. If we go here in var log events, you will see all these. Now if we go to the log command and then we write here as a front end, we run the command, then we will see all these. So this is how you write all these commands inside it. Now to make it a bit of more robust, we will create areas here, array areas, and then we say global, and then we will have front end, we'll have admin HTML, web API REST, web API SOAP, GraphQL. So all these areas. And now what we can say for each areas as area, the data will be, here will be array keys. We only want the keys which are the events, and then here we will say area. Now since we have all these keys, then we will have events as an array, and then we just say here as data, and now events will equals array, data. Now you can see we can have this, but these are not flat. Now every time you loop through, the events is not a flat array, it will be a multi-dimensional array, so it will have like a 6 arrays inside it with 6 areas for 6 types of events. Now we need to flatten this events. To flatten this event or this array, we will use a Magento utility class, which is array-util. We'll have it here. So it's a Magento framework stdlib array-utils, and then we can call it as array-util. We initialize it, and then we don't need these array keys. We just say this array-utils flatten events. This will be a one-dimensional array, single array, and not multi-dimensional. Now if we just run the command, and we'll see what happens. Run the command, and then if we go to the events, we will see many, it's around 323 events being logged, and that comes from all the scopes, from all the areas. Now what happens if you want to log one area? This is simple and could happen by adding an argument. So we can say this add argument, and I'll call it scope, and this scope will have input argument as optional. You don't need to have it, and then we just give it a description as a scope, and then here we can say scope equals this get input get argument scope, and this scope will be just a text you type, a front end or admin HTML or global, whatever the area you want to log in. However, this need to be checked because sometimes it's going to be a null if you don't specify it, and then you want all areas to be logged. So to be checking this, we'll say if an array scope areas, so if that's what you typed in is one of these, then we can say areas equals scope. Now we reduced the array, and then we make it only one, and then when you loop only through one element and not 6 elements, and this is how you specify it here. Now if we go back here, and then I will say GraphQL, and if I go to the event text, I will get only those 6. If I go front end, then I'll get a lot more here as 64. And this is how you can log in or make your cheat sheet, event cheat sheet, by creating a custom command line, and then you run it using the events configurator from this class. I hope this is useful. Please like and subscribe if you like the video, and I'll see you next time.